I was standing by the counter, waiting for the coffee machine to finish, when Cindy walked into the kitchen. She had a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and her small rolling suitcase in hand. The one she usually packed when she went to stay with her parents for a few days. Her expression was composed, almost too composed. She didn't look upset, angry, or even conflicted. Just steady. "I think I need a break," she said, stopping a few feet from me like she was afraid the floor between us might give way. "A break from what?" I asked, though in the pit of my stomach I already knew what she meant. "From us," she answered. "You mean from the marriage?" Her hand tightened on the suitcase handle. I need time to sort things out. A few weeks. Not forever." I studied her. She wasn't emotional. Her voice didn't waver, not even once. It was even practiced, like she had gone over this in her head many times before saying it aloud. She seemed braced for resistance, for pleading, for some dramatic argument. But I didn't give her that. "All right," I said simply, stepping out of her path. "No questions?" she asked, eyebrows slightly raised. "No," I replied. She looked at me for a second, as if she didn't believe it. Maybe she had expected me to fight for her, to try to convince her to stay. But I'd already felt the distance. It had been there for weeks, maybe longer. She was still present in the house, but her mind was elsewhere. The silence she carried to the dinner table was louder than anything I could say. She walked toward the door. No hug, no argument, not even a proper goodbye, just a casual, "I'll be in touch," tossed over her shoulder. Then the door closed behind her, and the sound of the lock clicking echoed through the house like punctuation. I didn't move. I just stood in the kitchen, coffee forgotten, not really thinking about anything. That was Saturday. By Sunday the silence doubled. It wasn't unbearable, but the house felt hollow in a different way. Not painful, just empty. The first week slipped by on routine. I woke up at 6:15, went to the gym, showered, threw myself into work, answered emails, came home, repeated the cycle. Her slippers stayed beside the bed. I didn't touch them. It wasn't denial. It was more that I wasn't ready to reshape my space just yet. I wanted to see how life unfolded without her before making any changes. And strangely, it wasn't suffocating. The quiet didn't crush me the way I had imagined. By midweek, Jonathan showed up. My younger brother walked in carrying a pizza and a six-pack like he used to back in college. He looked around, reading the room. "You doing okay?" he asked. "I'm good," I told him. And that was it. We didn't analyze, didn't dig deeper. We just watched the game, laughed, and cracked jokes until the night ended. The next morning, I noticed something small but significant. Her favorite mug, the red one with the chipped handle, was gone from the dish rack. She must have taken it with her. And that told me everything. No one packs their favorite mug if they plan to come back soon. That Friday, I worked late and came home to an empty kitchen. I reheated some leftovers, put on a movie I knew she hated, and went to bed. I slept better than I expected. No restless tossing, no breakdowns under the shower spray. Just quiet. Not the kind of space she said she needed. A different kind. One that felt like something I'd been missing too. It was the 12th night after she left when the phone rang. I had just poured myself a drink and was halfway through a slow-moving documentary about animal migration. The sort of thing that always made Cindy oddly sentimental. Her name lit up the screen. 11:40 p.m. She hadn't called or texted once since she walked out. I let it ring a couple of times before I answered. "Hey," she said softly. Her tone wasn't shaky, but slower, like she might have had a glass of wine. "Hey," I replied. Silence stretched for a beat. I wasn't sure if I should call. "It's late." I didn't say anything. "I remembered that documentary you watched last year," she continued. "The one about Arctic wolves. You told me the alpha pair stays together for life. Do you remember that? Are you calling to talk about wolves, Cindy?" I asked flatly. She exhaled, a quick uneven sound. "No. I've been thinking. The quiet here doesn't feel like the quiet at home. Yours always seemed more intentional. Different." Still I said nothing. "Do you miss me?" she asked at last. That was the real reason for the call. That was what she needed to hear. "I don't know yet," I told her honestly. A long silence followed. Okay, she whispered. I could hear faint music in the background. Probably one of those old playlists she used whenever she slipped into nostalgia. You don't have to be cold, Martin, she said gently. I'm not being cold, I replied. I'm being honest. She didn't say goodbye. She just hung up. I stared at the screen for a while, then opened her contact and deleted it. Not out of anger, not to punish her, but because I couldn't keep making space for someone who wasn't sure if they wanted to return. The following Monday in the elevator at work, I ran into Ava. She worked in sales, confident, sharp, and blunt in a way that often made people uneasy. We didn't talk much outside of meetings. That morning, she stopped by my office. You free for a second? She asked. Yeah, sure. She hesitated before speaking, as if debating whether she should say what was on her mind. I ran into Cindy this weekend. I kept my face still. Where? Riverfield Music Hall. Friday night. I gave a small nod. That was one of Cindy's favorite places. She wasn't alone, she added, studying my reaction. There was a guy with her. Gray jacket, glasses. They were close. How close? I asked. She exhaled, leaning in, sharing a drink, arms brushing, smiling like it mattered. I nodded again. Thanks for telling me. You okay? I'm fine. And I was. That evening I went home, pulled out our wedding album, flipped through it for a few minutes, then quietly placed it in a storage bin in the closet. Not in anger. Just acceptance. Those pictures didn't belong to the life I was living anymore. Then I opened her dresser drawer. A scarf, a perfume bottle, an old hoodie. I folded them neatly into a small box, sealed it, and left it in the garage. No note. No dramatic gesture. Just an action to mark an ending. She'd asked for space, but she wasn't using that space to reflect. She was using it to test life without me. The next morning, I drove downtown and filed for divorce. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just a decision that felt overdue. She hadn't put our marriage on pause. She'd pressed pause on responsibility. Exactly 3 weeks later, on a Saturday, I came back from a run. The doorbell rang. When I opened the door, she was there. Hair tied back, no makeup, wearing a hoodie. It wasn't her appearance that struck me. It was how she stood, uncertain, like she wasn't sure whether she was welcome. Can we talk? She asked. I didn't reply. Just stepped aside. She walked in cautiously, like she was entering a home she wasn't sure still belonged to her. Her eyes scanned the living room, almost expecting it to look different, but everything was the same. The only thing that had changed was her. She stood in the middle of the room, arms folded. I've been thinking a lot, she said. I waited. These past 3 weeks have been confusing but eye-opening. I thought space would clear my head. And it did, but not in the way I expected. Out there, away from you, away from this house. I realized how much I took all of it for granted. Still, I said nothing. I miss feeling safe with you. I miss our rhythm, even the stupid little fights. I miss everything. I made a mistake. I want to come back. I gave a small nod, walked down the hall, and returned carrying the box I had packed. I set it down gently in front of her. Her eyes fell to it. Her voice cracked. What is this? Your things, I said simply. From the dresser, the bathroom, the nightstand. She shook her head slowly, as though she could undo what was happening with sheer denial. Wait, what are you saying? I looked her in the eyes. You asked for space. This is what came of it. She took a step forward. Martin, please. Take it, I said quietly, and go. Her lower lip trembled. No tears yet, but the weight was there. She hadn't realized until this moment that the door she thought she could walk back through was already closed. She stared at the box like it was undeniable evidence of something she couldn't escape. I didn't think, she whispered, you'd stop loving me so quickly. I didn't, I replied evenly. I just stopped waiting to matter. I was lost, she said, voice desperate now. I needed clarity. Everything felt stuck. I stepped closer, my tone steady. So instead of talking to me, you vanished and filled the silence with someone else. Her mouth parted slightly. Who told you? Eva, I said. She saw you at Riverfield Music Hall. Friday night. She said you didn't look like someone searching for space. You looked comfortable. Her throat tightened as she swallowed. It was what it looked like. But it wasn't serious. He's gone now. It didn't mean anything. I nodded once. And now you're here. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, I never stopped loving you. I held her gaze, not angry, not cold, just finished. You miss routine, I said quietly. The comfort, the calm. But you didn't miss me. Her lips parted, then closed again. I was building something real with you, I said. I didn't know you only planned to borrow it. That's when the tears came. Her face crumpled, voice breaking. Please don't do this. We can fix it. No. I said, my voice steady. You can't break something apart, walk away, and then return expecting it to be whole again. Her eyes glistened. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered, her voice cracking. But you did, I answered. Intent doesn't erase the damage. She reached out, fingers trembling, but I stepped back. This house, I told her softly, was once ours. Now it's only mine. What's left inside it, what it means, that isn't something you can carry away. She looked like she wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Her shoulders shook instead. I gestured toward the box by the door. Please. She moved slowly, without protest, without one last plea. Just a quiet acknowledgement that her temporary absence had turned permanent, costing her more than she had realized. A week later, Jonathan called. Cindy asked about you, he said. Nothing much, just if you were doing okay, if you were seeing anyone. He hadn't given her answers, and I was grateful. There was nothing left to tell. Before hanging up, he hesitated. You don't sound angry, he observed. Or even sad. Just finished. He was right. I wasn't mourning anymore. My chest wasn't heavy, my thoughts weren't spiraling at night. What I felt wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. The kind that comes when you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who never valued it. By then, the divorce papers were signed. It was straightforward. No courtroom battles, no arguments. She hadn't asked for the house. Maybe guilt kept her from it, or maybe she knew I wouldn't let it go. We divided everything else with quiet civility. She walked out with her copy and never turned back. In the weeks that followed, I filled the silence differently. I joined a weekend basketball league, grabbed drinks with coworkers, even started seeing someone new. Her name was Julia. Sharp, honest, easy to be around. With her there were no games, no ghosts from the past. Cindy's name never came up, and I didn't bring it up either. Sometimes, though, old friends or acquaintances would reach out. She asked about you. She regrets everything. She still loves you. I gave the same reply each time. Please stop telling me. I'm not listening anymore. Not because of anger, because it didn't matter. Cindy had made her choice, and I had made mine. The difference was that mine was final. You can't rebuild something when only one person is carrying the bricks. I was done holding the weight. At first, the silence she left echoed, but over time it softened, until it became something else entirely, peace. 3 months later, I received an invitation to Michael's wedding, an old college friend. I went alone, navy suit, clean shave, with no expectations. Not long after I arrived, I saw her. Cindy stood near the bar, wine glass in hand, offering polite laughter to someone's story. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, like life had worn her down. She saw me before I could look away. Our eyes locked. She didn't smile. Neither did I. She didn't walk over, and I didn't move toward her. The moment passed in silence. No words, no gestures. Just the heavy weight of what could have been, made lighter by the fact that it never would be. Later, I stepped outside for some air. I remembered the first time we danced at a wedding. The certainty in her grip, the feeling that the future was sealed between us. Now here we were, years later, standing in the same kind of place, but with nothing tethering me to her anymore. That glance across the room was the real ending. Not the packed box, not the signed papers, not even the conversations afterward. It was that simple acknowledgement. Two people realizing the chapter had closed itself. Friends invited me to join them for drinks, and I said yes. As I left the venue, I looked back one last time. Cindy was still inside. surrounded by familiar faces, but already fading into the background of my life. I stepped into the night, hands in my pockets. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel a void. Not from her absence, not from her silence. Just a quiet, steady peace. And that was more than enough.